Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I am Nancy Tickner. I'll be your worship associate for today's service. We gather together with our doubts as well as our convictions, with our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been a member or friend for many years, we are glad you are here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever your background, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome. The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We hope you will consider making an offering after today's service through our webpage, uushenandoah.org, which allows us to exercise that generosity of spirit for this self-supporting church and its many ministries, which continue while we are not physically together. We invite you to join our community at noon for our virtual post-service gathering for Joys and Concerns, followed by our coffee hour conversations in small breakout groups. The Zoom link is found in today's email. Our speaker today is UUCSV member Henry Tickner, who served as our first called minister from 2003 to 2010. He earned a Master's of Divinity degree from Wesley Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C., and was ordained in 2003. In 2018, the UUCSV congregation voted to recognize his service to the congregation by naming him Minister Emeritus. Today's service is entitled Not Taken for Granted. Prior to entering the ministry, Henry spent 32 years in elementary and secondary education as a teacher, elementary and middle school principal, and central office administrator. He lives in Winchester with me, his wife of almost 38 years. He has 2 wonderful adult daughters, 2 great sons-in-law, and 2 adorable grandsons, all of whom live in Virginia. Henry likes to garden, read, do crossword puzzles with his special pen, hike, and eat ice cream.
Good morning. It's a joy and a pleasure to be with you today. These opening words are from Bruce Marshall, UU minister. Our lives are made up of small moments, sharing a meal with family and friends, wondering about a puzzle that we question, giving help to another, listening to a person or being listened to, talking with another about something that makes us sad, an embrace, a smile, a touch, offering a thought that might just help to make a little more sense of it all. Our being together here is just such a moment. It's a small thing we do in coming together, Yet it is significant. May we affirm and celebrate all of the moments we share together.
Now, as Dixie comes forward, let us all say together from our homes the words for lighting our chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. And I invite you to join with me from your home as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another.
As has become the tradition of this congregation, I invite you to join with me in a moment of silence as we hold in our hearts all those in our nation and the world who are struggling and suffering during the pandemic called COVID-19, and all the evidences of systemic racial injustice and oppression, and all the challenges that each of these people faces. Please join with me in a time of silence. Amen, and blessed be.
Our words for reflection are written by and given permission from the UU minister Lynn Unger from her new book, These Days, Poetry of the Pandemic Age. In memory, for John Prine. Of course, our beloved dead are with us, peering over our shoulders into the bathroom mirror, or rising from the morning's cup of tea to sit at the kitchen table for a while. Family is family, and the departed don't depart. But surely there is also a place in the house for the ones we never met, but who called us down the road or cleared the path so we could follow. If not a room, after all, they did not belong to us, then maybe a garden bench or a treehouse, some landscape that is part of home, where they could still breeze through. Yesterday, a hummingbird hovered near me like the tiniest of angels, bright and insistent, chirping to me about something that could have been summer's end.
This week, we mark the annual observance of Memorial Day. For many, Memorial Day signifies the beginning of summer and is generally celebrated with car sales, picnics, barbecues, and the opening of community swimming pools. All teachers know that after Memorial Day, their charges have their minds on other things, such as the swim team, family trips, or just hanging out with friends. Remember that old refrain, no more rulers, no more books, no more teachers' dirty looks? Well, those days are past. On both Memorial Day and Veterans Day, it is customary to spend time remembering and honoring the countless veterans who have served the United States throughout this country's history, both those who have died in the service of their country and those still living who serve this nation with pride. One of the first community observances of Decoration Day occurred in Columbus, Mississippi on April 25th, 1866, when a group of women visited a cemetery to decorate the graves of Confederate soldiers who had fallen in the Battle of Shiloh. Nearby were the graves of Union soldiers, which had been neglected as they were considered the enemy. Disturbed by the sight of the bare graves, these women placed some of their flowers on those graves as well. 2 years later, in May 5th of 1868, the head of an organization of Union veterans established what we now know officially as Decoration Day, a time for the nation to decorate the graves of war dead with flowers. Subsequently, Major General John A. Logan declared that Decoration Day should be officially observed on May 30th. It is believed that the date was chosen because of all the spring flowers that would be in bloom across much of this country. The first large observances were held that year at Arlington National Cemetery. Now, there's another account by David Blight, a Yale historian, who suggests another origin story of Memorial Day. Blight traces the holiday to a series of observances that freed Black Americans held in the spring of 1865, after Union soldiers had liberated the city of Charleston, South Carolina. That same city where before the war, over 40% of the African slaves coming to the British colonies were sold in Charleston's slave markets. Dr. Bright believes that the largest of the commemorations took place on May 1st, 1865, at a former horse track where hundreds of Union soldiers had died from their injuries and disease and had been buried in a mass grave. According to his research, the Black residents of Charleston exhumed the bodies and gave them proper burials. And they erected a fence around the gravesite and constructed an entry arch with these words, "Martyrs of the Racecourse." It won't come as a surprise that the possible African-American origins of the holiday were later suppressed. As Dr. Blight observes, in the struggle over memory and meaning, some stories just get lost, while others achieve mainstream understanding. Today, Memorial Day commemorates the women and men who died while in the military service of their country, particularly those who died in battle or as a result of injuries sustained in battle. And we should never forget, nor should we ever take for granted, the U.S. servicemen and women who have given their lives for this country. 116,516 in World War I, 405,399 in World War II, 36,516 in Korea, 58,209 in Vietnam, and the approximately 7,000 who have been killed in Afghanistan and Iraq. Perhaps it is fitting this morning to lift up the names of Charles Havlett, the last U.S. serviceman to die in World War II in the European theater, as well as Charles McMahon and Darwin Lee Judge, who were the final combat casualties in Vietnam. These lives and all the others lost in war will never be taken for granted, nor will they ever be forgotten. For some Unitarian Universalist families, Memorial Day can cause uncomfortable feelings. Does honoring the sacrifice of those in uniform also celebrate war? How can we remember the fallen and celebrate at the same time? And given the seemingly endless wars our country is currently engaged in, how do we reconcile our personal feelings about war while supporting our troops and their families who are left behind? So let me share these words by the UU minister, Wayne Aronson. We enter into this season of Memorial Day surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. We hold their names and their faces in our mind's eye. We recall the gifts that they gave us through the strength of their being, the depths of their love, the courage of their dying, and the fullness of their living. So let us pause for just a moment this morning, wherever we are, to say aloud the names of loved ones lost in the service of this country. Amen. This year, no matter how we celebrate it, Memorial Day will be different. The beginning of this summer marks the 15th month of the pandemic. Last May, the number of COVID deaths had just surpassed 100,000. This Memorial Day, the number has exceeded 590,000. And each of these deaths is a unique and devastating loss that ripples through families and communities. Over 11,000 Virginians are no longer with us because of the virus. In the northern Shenandoah Valley, we have lost over 410 lives. Their precious and unique being shall not be taken for granted, nor will they be forgotten. And for those who have lost loved ones during this pandemic, this Memorial Day will be a different kind of remembrance. It will be recalled as a year of so many cherished lives lost, and it's essential that we forget not a single one. What qualities and gifts do you remember most about your loved one? Was it their generosity, their courage, their ever-present smile, their laugh, their affection, their deep caring? How our lives are diminished by not having them here with us. So let us remember the names of those we have lost to other causes whose impact upon our growing and learning is irreplaceable. Let us remember the names of those who first dared to leave their homes because of war or famine or political conflict in other countries, and were the first to bring our name to this country. Let us remember the names of those whose labors brought better living and working conditions to all, who brought wholeness to places where the voices of oppression and discrimination were heard the loudest. Let us remember the names of those who have died from violent actions, not of their own doing. Another wise Unitarian minister, Edward Searle, has observed, "These are the days of memory. It has always been so for our kind after the leaves have fallen. The nights are long and in the darkness we remember. These are the days of reflection. The long horizontal rays of the afternoon sun spill across the earth with the light of golden memory. A chilling breeze at twilight stirs the ground cover of leaves, stirring also our thoughts, the elusive beauty of red sunsets we would hold if only we could. But darkness seeps from below the horizon, and day turns to night. So we remember in our minds, in the golden light of memory, we affirm the eternal beauty of the lives of those who have died and the goodness of the days that were. These are the days of memory, of reflection, of affirmation. It has always been so after the leaves have fallen. This past year, we lost 3,600 healthcare workers who tended the sick and dying, and their loss is a reminder to us all of the sacrifices made by so many during these difficult days. How these medical professionals, for weeks or months, stayed away from their own families to try to keep them safe. And they worked endless hours to ceaselessly care for the critically ill and be with them in their final moments, holding their hands as they passed from this life when their loved ones were not permitted to be with them in the hospital. None of these lives will be taken for granted, and none shall be forgotten. But COVID isn't the only epidemic taking our loved ones from us. So far this year, there have been 195 mass shootings, taking 215 lives, including one in California just this past Wednesday that claimed 9 lives. Naziah Hill, just 3 months of age, is the year's youngest victim of gun violence. Let us remember also the 264 law enforcement officers who also lost their lives in the line of duty. In 2020, gun violence killed nearly 20,000 Americans, more than any other year in the last 2 decades. An even larger number, 24,000 died this year by suicide with a gun. Where there is pain and confusion, despair and doubt in our lives, we long for the suffering to end. For some, life leaves pains that seem unsurmountable, and some choose to end the pain themselves. The suffering, however, doesn't end. However, for those who have lost loved ones and cared for the fallen. Friends and family are left with the feeling of shock, betrayal, anger, sadness, and guilt, but hopefully with the healing gifts of time, compassion, and forgiveness, the heart can be refilled. None of these lives should be taken for granted, and none shall be forgotten. And let us too remember names like Dante Wright, age 20, Manuel Ellis, age 33, Rayshard Brooks, age 27, Daniel Prude, age 44, George Floyd, age 46, Breonna Taylor, age 27, Eric Garner, age 43, Tamir Rice, age 12, and Philandro Castile, age 32. And unfortunately, the list goes on. These are all people, neighbors, friends, relatives who are gone. Their lives will not be taken for granted, nor will we forget that they loved, laughed, and cried as we do. As we remember each of these individuals, let us lift up the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who wrote, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere." So this Memorial Day, perhaps more than any other, we need to be together. We need to be reminded that we need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair and need to be called back to our best selves again. We need to know that it is good to be together in honor, with smiles as well as tears, and to remember all those we have lost and those individuals who filled our world and brightened our days. For their lives will not be taken for granted, nor shall they be forgotten. A wise woman, Helen Keller, once explained this with these words: "We bereaved are not alone. We belong to the largest company in all the world, the company who have known suffering. When it seems that our suffering is too great to be endured, let us think of the great family of the heavy-hearted into which our sadness and grief has given us entrance. And inevitably, we will feel about us then their arms, their sympathy, their understanding. So long as the memories of beloved friends live in my heart, I shall say that life is good." Amen, and blessed be. Our closing words this morning are from Rebecca Parker, the former dean of the Starr King School for the Ministry. Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting.
As Dixie comes forward to extinguish our flame, let us say together from our homes the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And please stay tuned for the second part of the UUCSV video that we've made to learn more about our wonderful memorial garden. Thank you.
Deep, deep peace from the earth to you. Deep, deep peace from the sky to you. Deep, deep peace from the sea to you. Deep, deep peace from me to you. Deep, deep peace. Deep, deep peace. Deep, deep peace from the wind to you. Deep, deep peace from the flower to you. Deep, deep peace from the tree to you. Deep, deep peace from me to you. Deep, deep peace. Deep, deep peace. Deep, deep peace. Deep, deep peace from the earth to you.
Hello, I'm Michelle Worthing. I'm the chairman of the Memorial Garden Committee. We're having this event to publicize the Memorial Garden. It's partly for new members that might not be aware of all that we offer, and as a reminder for old-time members that, you know, we're all getting older, and particularly in this year of the COVID, it's kind of good to be reminded that you can have your ashes put here in the garden. We lately redid all our publicity, our charter, our brochure. It's now, everything is online, application forms. And we just want to welcome you to use the garden and maybe sit on the benches and think about things. Thank you.
My name is Zelda, and Michelle invited me to talk about my bricks in the Memorial Garden. And I'm looking at the first brick that I put down for my daughter, Serena Molly Utel. And it says Serena Molly Utel, UU Beginnings, 1990 to 2006. It reminds me that she went through her whole childhood years in the RE program here. And it brings back a lot of memories for me of all the teaching that I did in the RE program and all those teachers that we worked with. Another one just down the line is, this is a fun one. This is an anniversary brick for Joe and I about when we got married, January 1st, 2008. And we did this brick because we thought, well, that's going to remind us always that our anniversary is on January 1st, 2008. And if we kind of think about it now, who could forget? I mean, January 1st, New Year's Day, and we were in Las Vegas. Oh man, wow, wow, wow. Another one I've got down here is, it's UU Fireside Secrets, June 13th, 2009. That was a UU auction item that we won, and Jim and Barb Peters donated a weekend in the Shenandoah National Park, and we spent 2 days in cabins. And there were so many UUs there. And we had a big bonfire that night, and we all told these secrets. And I asked Joe the other day, can you remember any of those secrets? And we can't remember a thing. Oh, no. There's another one here for Leslie Patton. And Leslie, this was her first UU home, and now she's moved on to Colorado, and she has another UU home in Denver. So those are all my bricks, and today I'm buying another brick for Bill Trendle. He was a good friend of ours and a good man, and he died last year in June. So these bricks bring back a lot of memories, celebrations, and joys, and I just love what we did here. So thank you to the Memorial Garden.